Now, oddly enough, I'd like to begin our appreciation of Hanukkah with an Arabic saying. It goes like this: Dima hikya hey hey. Dima hikya hey hey. Could you join me? Dima hikya hey hey. Do you know what you just said? No. It means it's always the same old story. The story, originating in the cradle of civilization, Mesopotamia, what we call now the Middle East, has only changed in terms of its geographic boundaries. Now, we can't forget that the map of that region today, which has always been in flux, the map today was created by Western powers in the post-Ottoman Empire, a new chapter that began in the 20th century. The borders of Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, and Israel were all arbitrarily constructed. The operative word, though, is empire. An empire is a large region under a single supreme authority. Historically, empires rise and fall because the disquieting question that continually confronts each empire through the ages, that question is, how long can the empire keep its wide influence and control? Now, the story of how long empires endure is really one and the same, be it the Roman Empire, the Ottoman Empire, or the American Empire. Although Americans are somewhat loath to identify our global power and muscle as constituting an empire, Americans remain concerned, especially among those who are right of center, concerned about our country's waning influence. America's authority no longer holds the same sway it once did. A question we hear repeatedly inquires of whether or not America is in decline. And last week's vote in the United Nations, which elevated Palestine to observer status, delivered another chink in the armor of the American empire. Maintaining control of an empire is never easy. The Ottoman Empire conquered Syria in the 15th century and flexed its power until the First World War. Not a bad run. Going back in time progressively, the region experienced the authoritarian influence of the Byzantine Empire, the Roman Empire, and Alexander the Great, who wrestled the region out of the control of the Persian Empire. The story of Hanukkah finds itself in that period of time when Alexander the Great created various kingdoms throughout his territory, including the Seleucid kingdom, which would identify today as present-day Syria. Alexander the Great's enormous territorial influence virtually stretched over most of Asia, once thought of as too big to fail. It became unmanageable, however, because the same old story teaches us that when authority extends beyond a certain geographical area, it becomes impossible to control and maintain, simply too unwieldy. Alexander the Great occupied land in the Middle East that included the area between Lebanon and Pakistan. He established the Seleucid kingdom in Syria in the year 312 before the Common Era, and it lasted until the Roman Empire conquered it in the year 63 before the Common Era. So the Seleucid Empire lasted about 300 years. The Hanukkah story occurred in 166 before the Common Era, about halfway through the reign of the Seleucid kingdom. The area at that time was predominantly Greek, of course. Greeks had lived in that region since the 7th century before the Common Era. And in fact, Syria is derived from the Greek word Assyria. The biblical references to Assyria point to the prominent Hellenistic influence at that time and in that place. As an aside, let me interject that the Greek influence remained strong there until the Muslim conquest in the year 600 in the Common Era. The Greeks finally died out in the year 1180 when the Byzantine Empire flexed its muscle and influence, and that only lasted until the Ottoman Empire conquered it in the 1400s. And so the same old story of empires gaining and losing power goes around and around. So let's finally get to Hanukkah. It's a few years still before the Hanukkah story actually takes form in 166 before the Common Era. The region called Judah, known as the Land of Israel, is under the control of Antiochus III, the Seleucid king of Syria. It's all good. Antiochus III knows that the secret to running a kingdom successfully entails tolerance. So the Jews in that area are free to practice their religion. His son, however, Antiochus IV, was less benevolent, or shall we say, less smart. He outlawed the Jewish religion and ordered Jews to worship Greek gods. It's the same old story of how moderates create an environment of tolerance while extremists seek to destroy any vestige of diversity. It's the same old story then as now. Radical extremists are fueled by fear that their belief will be diminished unless there is conformity, while moderates and progressives respect diversity as actually beneficial to society. By the time Antiochus IV comes along, Jews are well steeped in their tradition and culture. They think this new king is nuts, and they defy his orders to begin worshiping Greek gods. But Antiochus IV is quite serious. And in 168, before the Common Era, his soldiers descend upon Jerusalem, massacring thousands of people and desecrating the city's holy second temple by erecting an altar to Zeus and sacrificing pigs within its sacred walls. Today, we call this genocide. It's the same old story of intolerance leading to brutality. When we reflect, we just think about one authoritarian figure, one despot, wielding the power to destroy an entire culture. It feels like we just got kicked in the guts. It's wrenching to contemplate. One's whole identity, one's religious practice, the connective tissue of a tradition suddenly eradicated by a power-crazy tyrant. The Unitarian tradition may not be as long or rich as others, but we came close to such a horrific experience in the early 1990s when the Romanian dictator, Ceausescu, aimed to bury all evidence of the Transylvanian culture. Bulldozers were out along the Hungarian border ready to obliterate everything, including several Unitarian churches. Through the speedy efforts of the Unitarian Universalist Association, led by Bill Schultz, American politicians, a delegation to the United Nations, and their peacekeeping troops, the old culture was preserved. They moved in so quickly. It was a Unitarian miracle.